5 seconds to go. Start. We have considered the submissions made by the learned counsel. The High Court, upon close scrutiny of the evidence, concluded that there was evidence of a quarrel between the husband and wife about 6 months prior to the occurrence, which had been settled with the intervention of the eldest. There were complaints that the deceased did not know how to do any household work. The in laws had also complained that she was not well mannered. Their ill treatment of the wife escalated after the murder of her father by extremists. It was at that stage the husband had started demanding that the deceased should claim one of the two houses left behind by her father in village Nabipur. About 10 months prior to her death, she was actually sent by the appellants to demand possession of the house. The appellant and his parents were suspecting that the sister of the deceased Manju Kaur had taken everything after the death of the father of the deceased. The appellant and his parents were insisting that the house be legally conveyed in the name of the deceased. However, mother of the deceased left for England after the first death anniversary of her husband in May 1988. The High Court, on examination of the entire evidence, concluded that the deceased had not committed suicide on account of demands for dowry but due to harassment caused by her husband in particular. The deceased had committed suicide by drinking phosphorus poison. In view of the findings recorded, the High Court converted the conviction of the appellant from one under section 304B IPC to one under section 306 IPC. We do not find much substance in the submission of Mr. Ashok that the High Court could not have convicted the appellant under section 306 IPC as the charge had been framed under section 304B IPC. On scrutiny of the entire evidence, the High Court has come to the conclusion that the deceased had not committed suicide on account of demands for dowry but due to harassment caused by her husband in particular. The harassment by the appellant had compounded the acute depression from which the deceased was suffering after the murder of her father. There was no evidence of any demand for dowry soon before the death, and there was no demand whatsoever that the house in question should be transferred to either of the accused. Under section 304B IPC, the cruelty or harassment by her husband or any relative of her husband or in connection with any demand for dowry is a prelude to the suicidal death of the wife. Such suicidal death is defined as dowry death. The High Court has recorded a firm finding that the harassment was not for or in connection with any demand for dowry, but at the same time, the High Court has concluded that the wife committed suicide due to harassment of the appellant in particular. In such circumstances, the High Court was therefore fully justified in convicting the appellant under section 306 IPC. Stop.